right. Hello, I'm Jeff Pollard at Jeff Pollard 11 on Instagram and The Solar Power to the People on Facebook. I'm here with Carol Schreiner at Superhero Sports Camp, and it's physical education for the special needs. Now, Carol, can you please tell me who you are? Tell me all about you. Tell me about your world.
That's a long story. Hey, everybody. So I'm Carol. I teach adapted PE, which is PE for students with disabilities. And through absolutely loving teaching those kiddos, I created the Superhero Sports Camp. So it's to combine students with disabilities and without disabilities so they can work together, because the interactions that they have with each other, like naturally, is amazing.
Right. And what is it that it entails? What are things you find in there in your camp?
So I kind of go by, it depends on what campers sign up for each session, and then just kind of go with the flow and provide them with what I think is going to work best for that group. So it's kind of always evolving and changing. Because of what I teach, I have access to lots of equipment, which I'm super grateful for. And so I will do any activity that I can get my hands on equipment for the camp. So we'll do basketball stuff. And a lot of times, like with teaching, I'm not teaching the full games. I'm teaching like the basic skills so that when they're in a game, the students have some knowledge of like, oh, basketball, that's where I use one hand and I bounce the ball in front of me. So they get kind of the basics. So, and it also depends too on how many campers I have. If we have a smaller group, then I can work on more specific skills and create games out of that. So I have hockey stuff. And so one time I had 2 campers. And so we did a fun shootout game. And they were working on their skills, but they didn't really realize it because they were having so much fun competing with the shootout part and cheering each other on. So it's always changing.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is this something that I know it's a camp, but is this something that the parents can stay and get involved with if they wanted to, or?
I certainly invite them to do whatever they're comfortable with. Part of the motivation of me creating this camp was to give the parents a timeout, because a lot of times, especially the families that have a mixed population, meaning a typically developing child and a child with special needs, the balancing act that they have to tackle daily is mind-blowing to me. So when I'm able to give them the opportunity to drop off one child, all your kids, whatever you'd like to do, and go take a time out. So my very first camp, I had 1 camper, and I told the mom, go do something fun. And when she came back to pick up her son, I was like, what'd you do? And she's like, I cleaned the bathroom. It was so great. Nobody interrupted me. I was like, well, that wasn't what I was thinking exactly, but you were so happy about it, so I'm happy. So I told her, okay, cool, good job. And next camp, you have to do something different besides cleaning. She's like, okay, fair enough.
Something for yourself.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's a strong point you made. It's like from what we learned in 2020 with COVID is like parents, I mean, more props to the teachers. I mean, you guys are handling so many kids, but the most important thing that we learned is that the kids, especially in the younger stages, they need that growth and that interaction with other children.
Yeah.
And we got to remember that it's okay for parents to either stick around or go, in the sense of, if you leave, the benefit is that they get to stand on their own 2 feet, metaphorically, and interact with other children and grow from there. There's so much growth from that. And
Totally.
well
said. And you get a moment of someone not like, mom, dad, what's going on? What's this? Let's do this. Like, you get to just take a breath, which, I mean, when I watch parents doing what they do, like, those little breathers are rare moments and need to be celebrated. So Yeah,
And we need to play both sides where it's very important for parents to take a breather and find time for themselves. Don't
totally.
just
Yeah.
enjoy cleaning the bathroom, but go for a walk, treat yourself to some
Yeah,
wine.
yeah, exactly. And it truly takes a village, which is why my camp is always evolving to whatever they need. Like, truly, if you just need your kids to go to the park and run around and play outside, I will happily run around with them. We don't have to do organized sports to just get that human interaction in a safe environment, being outdoors, being in nature, being out of the home for a minute, to change things up. Um, so yeah, I love having that flexibility of being able to kind of morph into whatever the parents need in that moment. And I've certainly had parents ask who are bringing their camper for the first time, can I stay? And I'll notice they're like sitting in their car for a little bit and then they'll drive away. So it's like, okay, cool. You feel comfortable now. You can see your kiddos like content, having fun, and you're comfortable with driving away. That's awesome. But if they'd like to stay, I've certainly welcomed that. And I've had sets of parents where they've sat in the park and taken pictures for us, so that we get cool shots to put on the website, and they get to watch, all the fun stuff that their kid is doing, so they get to see, because a lot of times when kids are playing with their parents, it's very different when they're playing with like a teacher or a coach. So it's fun for them to witness that too. So I'm open to whatever is best needed in that moment.
Yeah, that whole nesting syndrome is very real, letting the bird fly on their own. And
Yeah, definitely.
now it sounds like your camp's very adapting and stuff, but so it could range from hourly to a full day kind of thing. With your
Yeah, especially in the summer. So I run this on the side of teaching. So obviously Monday through Friday, from 8 to 3, I'm with the kiddos at school. So with COVID, things have kind of stalled out a bit. Trying to figure out what parents need and who's comfortable with actually coming to camp. So in the summertime, I have much more flexibility to do, like, if you want just an hour of time out and you're going to drop your kids off, excellent. Excuse me, excellent. I can definitely do that. So typically I'll set up a camp from like 9 to 12, because if we have a group of kids, it gives them enough time to like get into basketball enough and get a game going and get some skills going. And then we take a time out and sit in the shade and have a snack and chat with the whole group. And then we can transition to something else. So I've found that 3 hours is kind of a sweet spot, especially because when you're working with kids with disabilities, a lot of them, like when I was a kid, put me outside, I'd run and play sports and not stop until my mom yelled that it was time for dinner. But not every kid has that. And that's the other thing that's really cool about my camp, is having that, being able to adapt, like, okay, this kid has been encouraged by their parents to come. They may not be super excited about being there. So instead of having them like be on play, then I can morph it and maybe they hold the equipment for their friend. So they're getting a timeout, but they're still engaged. And now they're interacting with a peer in a different way. So now they're in charge of handing their friend, the frisbee that they're trying to throw to the target, and then, what color. So I can kind of put in all kinds of different aspects to whatever that kid needs. But so I have done a range, to very long answer to your question of the time. I'm good with whatever parents need, but typically when I set things up before anyone's signed up, it's a 3-hour block.
Okay. Okay. And for all those that don't know, we're in a kind of Southern California element, but have you ever came across during the summer fluke weather day? Do you have something for indoors, or do you have to cancel, or?
That is an awesome question. So once so far, I looked outside, my car's all packed, ready to go. And I'm like, this isn't, it's going to be raining. We're not going to be able to play at the park. Cause that's where I typically do it, at a park. So that one time I'm a member of Torrance Chamber of Commerce. So I was able to reach out to my mentor and be like, hey, so I know you own that bowling alley and here's my situation. She's like, oh, perfect. Yeah, I have a room on the side you could play. And that, it just so happened that I didn't have a lot of campers, which was perfect. So we got to play in that indoor back. It was like one of their party rooms. So it was a nice big open space. We got to play for a little bit. And then I was like, should we do bowling? And their eyes lit up. And I was like, okay, cool. So to end the camp, we did one round of bowling and they totally loved it, which was awesome to watch that interaction. But no, I am always searching for indoor options because the tough part is, if I'm going to do sporty stuff, it needs to be a wide open space so we have room to kind of play around. And I can obviously modify and adapt and use softer equipment if we're going to be inside, but having that space would be nice. So I have yet to have found a space where I'm like, okay, that'll work. So I'm always searching for that.
Well, you brought up an important thing that I want to bring up, which is what I want to do differently, or probably everyone's doing it, but this needs to be stronger community based so far, And so what I mean by that is, anyone who's watching, please don't ever be afraid to reach out and say, hey, how can I help, in any shape or form, if you're nearby, maybe you have a venue. If you aren't, maybe you can vocalize something, everything. We need to grow that community again and grow it stronger. And
Well said. Yeah.
And so my wrapping up questions for you is, I also want this to be very, educational in the sense of, do you have any tips for either parents that, have special needs, or just people that don't know enough about it? Is there just any anecdotes or anything that you can kind of, express that just gives you, paints a picture for your world and kind of gives you a better understanding of humans and how we can all just help each other and,
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. And you've definitely touched on it. They're humans and community. So show some patience and love. Like if you don't know how to interact or assist a family that has kiddos with disabilities, just ask, hey, I'd love to support. Like, how can I help you guys out? As far as for actual skill wise that I could give a little input to families, I would say like the 3 areas that I focus on the most, like building a strong core with in my teaching environment, is kicking, catching, throwing. So if you think about those 3 skills, like when kids go out in the neighborhood and they play together, there's probably going to be some type of ball. They're playing catch or, something that involves one of those 3 skills. So if you start with kicking, have the ball sitting still. So instead of rolling it to them, place it in front of them and have them work on just kicking it forward. Catching it, if you bounce the ball to them, that gives them more time to track the ball, to react and to try to catch it. And then throwing, there's 2 different forms that are typically used in games and stuff. Overhand is bringing your arm up, and then underhand is bringing your arm down by your leg. So those are the 3 areas that I usually tell my parents, like, if you guys practice these at home, it'll make a big difference with like recess games and community activities outside of the school setting.
Okay, beautiful. No, I mean, we could always take that literally and metaphorically, but I'm a huge advocate for sports, and so physical education is so important. I mean,
Oh man, it really is on so many different levels, and I'm living proof of that. I don't have disabilities, but I absolutely thrived and loved school because I played sports all the way through. So I had a built-in family, basically. Like if I felt lost at school and didn't have friends, well, I have my softball teammates. So I'm guaranteed to have somebody that I could reach out to. And I love moving my body. So I get to end my day and go run around and play a sport that I love. So yeah, I'm a huge proponent of it. The social aspect, the confidence building, the, you know, being comfortable to be like, hey, do you want to play with me? I've learned this really fun new game we could do together. You know, there's so many little things that come out of being active and moving your body around with other people with you.
There's a reason why they keep going back to mind, body, and soul, you know, just to focus on those things to give better energy and stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, Finally, I would like to say, we spoke upon it. I would hope for you to bring it up again. I know that you have a site that people can kind of click on to help out um, in terms of getting equipment or something. Could you elaborate on that for us?
Yeah. So I have a website, but as far as the equipment goes, there is a nonprofit website called donorschoose.org. And it's a really cool community-based website where teachers can go in and post whatever they want. So we need sitting mats for our classroom. And so they'll pick out the equipment and they'll write up a project. Donors Choose approves it and posts it. And then as a community, we can go in and donate whatever amount we want to as many or as few projects that interest us. And I currently have a project up right now to give all over 200 kids with disabilities in Torrance Unified their own little bag of equipment so that when we do distance learning, we can actually say, because right now we're having to teach with no equipment. So I've been using cardboard boxes as things to play with and being creative at like, go grab a pair of socks and roll it into a ball. And that's great and that totally works. But to be able to say to the kids, okay, go get your red ball that's in the bag, because I know they all have it. They all get the red ball out and now we can expand. We've been working on throwing with the sock balls, but now we actually get to work on bounce catch. And if you have someone in the room with you, you can bounce it to them. So giving them that opportunity to motivate themselves to play. And then there's also a crossover of, oh, I do this kind of stuff with Miss Carol at school. I can also do it at home, because that's not always a natural connection that my students make. It's like, Miss Carol's asking me to do this. Outside of Miss Carol asking, I don't do that skill anywhere. So getting that crossover is huge. So yeah, I have a project up. You can search by just putting in Miss Schreiner. My last name is Schreiner, and it's the very top project on my page.
And I
So if you
will also post all these links in the
beautiful.
description boxes and so on. So,
And if you guys feel compelled to share it with other people, I am super grateful. And if you're compelled to also donate, I am super grateful for that too.
terrific. Well, I believe that is it. Carol Schreiner for Superhero Sports Camp.
Awesome.
And thank you so much for kind of giving us this quick introduction and education on your material. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time, and thanks to everybody for listening.
All right. We'll talk soon.